Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And we've done it. We've made it through another week. Thank God it's Friday, as they say. Well, it's such a busy Friday. There's so much to get through. I've got so many stories lined up. I literally could make one an hour. Instead of doing 9 till 6, which is usual, I could be here till 10 o'clock tonight. I'm not going to be. But there's just that much going on. So I've sort of coalesced a whole load. I'm going to go through and do the full story on the little flash videos I did yesterday evening after I'd finished doing my main stories. We'll go in and have a look at them in full. And then there's a load of other stories that are coming up. It is thick and fast and wonderful. Absolutely marvellous. But we'll get into it. So the first story I'm going to do is about the Argyll and Bute putting in the boot and utterly humiliating Humza Yousaf over his pledge to freeze council tax. That is now not a universal thing. And I think that now that Argyll and Bute confirmed they are going ahead with it, I suspect others may well do so. It's not over till it's over, as they say. And there's still people out there that have yet to confirm whether they're going to raise or not. So we'll start by the full story with the Argyll and Bute Council and the wonderful people out there who are, sticking it in and standing up against this incompetent government. Here goes. So before we get into it, can I ask that you check you're still subscribed? YouTube is still doing that random unsubscribe thing that they like doing, I think particularly to political channels such as this good one. And if you haven't yet subscribed, now of course is an excellent time to do so. There's a lot of stuff coming up and you won't want to miss it. Anyway, we'll get into this. Humiliation for Humza Yousaf as the SNP conference vow is shattered by Argyll and Bute Council. Now, no one, of course, is pretending that the raising of council tax is a good thing in and of itself. However, there are some services which absolutely positively have to be paid for. And as a society, we have to accept that there are things that needs to be done. We also have to accept as a society that inflation has been high. And so, in the reality of it is, these things are going to rise. And for Argyll and Bute, they are forced to increase their council tax. Now, like I say, it's not that people are going to be pleased with that. But what people will be pleased with is that it humiliates Humza Yousaf, that it breaks his mad idea that he had at the conference. Literally, back of the envelope stuff, the very last thing he could think of when he realised his speech was rubbish. Because, they calls it this freeze. But it isn't a freeze, it's a delay of an increase. Because he's paying a bit of the money they need this year. But it means he won't be paying it next year and going forward. He won't be finding that money every year going forward. Which means next year, when they need to have that money, they need to put the money up again to what it should be next year. But they won't have the money coming from central government. So it's going to be a massive increase next year. Well, for the people who live in Argyll and Bute, it's 2 smaller steps rather than one giant leap that everyone else is going to have to find. But all those SNP-run councils are going to probably, fall in step and do as they're told. But for the people living within them, they're going to have a hell of a shock next year. And of course, this year, the big people, the people who win big rather, are the wealthy in their big houses. For them, the saving is significant, and it's not progressive. It's an appallingly bad idea from a man who's literally run out of ideas. Not, of course, that he had many great ones to begin with. Not very bright. Anyway, the First Minister is facing a damaging loss as his promise to freeze council tax for all Scots, something he has no power over, has been broken already by a local authority. And I suspect not the last local authority. I think there will be more. Humza Yousaf is facing humiliation after his flagship SNP conference boast has been shattered by an unlikely opponent. Argyll and Bute Council announce plans to reject a council tax freeze and instead hike it up by 10%, thus rebuffing money from the Scottish Government to fund it. Now, if they'd have said, look, we'll take the money that you're offering, but we're still going to put it up by 5%, we have no option, then that would have been, a step in the right direction, I think. But because Shona Robinson has to stamp her tiny little feet in annoyance, they said, if you put it up at all, you're getting nothing. They went, that's fine. Look, we need 10%. Bang, we just put up 10%. It's how this thing would work. And like I say, it's not that the rising is good in itself. But people know things go up, especially after the 10% inflation that was going through last year. Everyone expects this to be the thing that's going to happen. It goes up, everything goes up, and it's an unfortunate fact of life. The fact that there's an awful lot of waste is beside the point, of course. And if there wasn't so much wasted by central government, then what they give to local governments anyway on an annual basis could have risen and helped offset some of the rise. But they're not going to do that. What, take money from independence causes? No, that's never going to happen, is it? Anyway, it'll be a massive slap in the face for the First Minister. Mind you, he's got a face like a well-scalped arse, so he should be used to it. And he's promised voters that he would freeze council tax, despite technically not having the power to do so. Not technically not having the power, absolutely not having the power. He has no say whatsoever over local authorities. He attempted to force local authorities to do this by supplying funding of around 147 million, which was supplemented by an extra 62 million, which they apparently didn't have beforehand, but somehow magicked out of the air after big crisis talks on Wednesday evening. We covered part of that before. But Argyll and Bute, God bless them, has voted to raise the tax by 10% and become the first council to reject the council tax freeze. They say the first, as I say, not possibly the last. Councillors did this in an attempt to overcome a £40 million funding gap, with the money on offer from the SNP executive not being enough to cover this. Now, they had a £40 million requirement. Now, and the SNP in the end was just over 200 million for the whole of Scotland. Well, if you'd have given Argyll and Bute the 40 million, that doesn't leave much for anyone else, does it? When you divide that out. And so this is why I say across the whole of Scotland, there's bound to be more. Bound to be more that will go the way of pushing the rates up, pushing the council tax up. It means that Band D properties in the region will now pay £1,627 and 12 pence a year. Other local authorities, including Glasgow, Aberdeenshire, Western Isles, Scottish Borders, and North and South Lanarkshire, have all implemented the freeze, and will then watch as others put their rates up and go, damn it, we could have done that. And incidentally, with Glasgow, I mean, they're implementing the freeze, and at the same time, they're offering the role of chief executive. They're advertising for it, and it's over 200,000 a year. That means the chief executive of Glasgow Council would be earning more than Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister of Great Britain. How is that possible? They should not be, if these people want this job, fine, offer them a job, but offer them a job. All jobs in politics should be very low-paid jobs when you're doing that. Your councillors and there. And now I know the chief executive isn't a councillor, isn't a voted in office, it is a salaried position. But if you cannot surely be offering a local council leader or a chief executive more money than the Prime Minister of the country. That just seems wrong. Anyway, that's a different video for a different day. Just rounding this off, councillors in Argyll and Bute were told they had to consider whether to reject this policy and increase by a minimum of 6.15%, or use a one-off fix of using reserves to balance the budget. The administration went for a 10% increase, with Lib Dem leader Robin Curry saying that can't be Robin Curry. No, he's dead. He's dead. I was thinking Robin Curry the skater, but that would have been 50 years ago. He would have been dead by now. Anyway, Robin Curry saying he had no option if he wanted to save services and jobs. And that's the thing. And you've got people who work for the council, who do real work. We're not saying that whatever you think of the councillors, and we all know they're all awful, and the leadership are all awful, but down at the bottom, the actual people who do the day-to-day work, they do deserve a living wage. They do deserve to earn enough from their chores to pay for their home, their family life. That's the principle of going to work. And so I don't have an objection to the people at the bottom earning what they need to earn. I have an objection to those at the top earning way, way more than they need to be earning. That's just greed. Anyway, the Scottish Government is expected to comment on this later today after the news broke during a briefing with the First Minister's spokesman. He indicated that the rise will mean that local authorities will not receive any of the planned 209 million, which will be shared out among the ones that do. But they don't care. They're getting more by this by this council tax rise than they would have done through the share of the monies. So they don't care. Mr Yousaf is facing utter humiliation of his leadership after he could not strong-arm councils into agreeing with his SNP conference promise. Other councils could now follow suit if the funding gap is too wide. And they will, just around there. And they won't be the last. And he will look increasingly powerless, impotent and stupid. Although you wonder how. You know, when you look at him now, you see how powerless, impotent and stupid he is. You think, how can that be extended? But I think it can. Anyway, I'm coming up. It isn't easy being Humza. Everything you say and do is examined because nobody believes a word of it, is then tested to destruction because they know it's always going to be a failure somewhere, and every policy always has flaws. There is nothing that ever can be pointed at and said that was a success, except one. There's one policy, I think, for Humza Yousaf which he can implement the policy, and I guarantee it'll be a success, and it'll be very popular with the people of Scotland, popular even with half his own party. And that is that he sits down at his desk over the next couple of days, maybe over the weekend, and he spends a lot of time, uses all his best crayons, and writes a letter of resignation. And I think everybody then will be a lot happier. Anyway, I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching. Definitely hit the subscribe button. We need the channel to grow. We need to get the word out there. Hit the like button. That helps the video. Share it as well. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and I will speak to you later. Bye.